Good morning. I'm glad you're here. I'm Laura, and this is Sunrise at Sea. Every morning, wherever the ship takes me, I come out to this balcony with my coffee, and I bring you with me. This morning, we're in Santorini. If you've never arrived in Santorini by sea, I don't know how to prepare you for this. The island rises out of the water like something that shouldn't exist. Ancient walls of black volcanic rock on every side. And up on the ridge, the villages of Ia and Fira, white buildings, blue domes, just perched up there in the early light. It stopped me this morning in that quiet way that makes you just breathe. And standing here with my coffee, watching this come into view, I kept thinking about the fact that I almost didn't end up here. That the life I'm living right now, this view, this morning, this ship, none of it was planned. It was just the next decision. And then the one after that. I want to ask you something. Is there something in your life right now? A decision, a change, a chapter you know needs to begin that you've been putting off because you don't have the whole thing figured out yet? A trip you've been planning for years but haven't booked? A career shift that makes sense in your gut but not yet on paper? A version of yourself that feels possible but also feels like it requires knowing things you just don't know yet? I'm asking because that was me. For longer than I'd like to admit. About 2 years before I got on this ship, I was living in Bangalore, India. I had taken on a major expat role with my company, a project that took me around the world, to the opposite side of the world, kept me very busy and kept me moving. And for a long time, that felt right. But somewhere in that last year, something shifted. The work that used to fill me stopped filling me. The culture I'd built my professional identity around for nearly 2 decades had changed, and I felt it. Not loudly, just quietly, persistently. The way things you can't ignore tend to make themselves known. You feel it in your chest before you understand it in your head. And then the project ended. I was relocating back to the United States, and the first thing I noticed was I didn't have anywhere specific to go. No permanent home, no furniture, no car, no lease or mortgage. After nearly 2 years living abroad, I was essentially starting from scratch in a country that was technically mine, but didn't feel like it right then. I had to book some Airbnbs. About 6 months out. The first few months in Arizona to be near family. Then over to the East Coast. I had been wanting to actually check out Myrtle Beach because I thought it could be a good investment in some rental property. I had a plan. It made sense on paper. And then I walked into this Airbnb and I knew within the first hour that something was wrong. It had great reviews. Everyone raved about the location. But what nobody mentioned, what I didn't find out until I was standing there with my luggage, was that there were no real windows. The glass on the sides of the door was that frosted kind. You can see light through it, kind of, but you can't actually see outside, and it didn't open. The only way to get fresh air and sunlight into that space was to open the front door, which had no screen. Which also meant cats from the neighborhood could walk straight in, which meant anyone on the sidewalk could see directly into my space. So I closed the door, and I unpacked my luggage, and I set up my laptop, and I went back to work. Because that's what you do, right? You notice something is wrong, and you adapt. You make it work. You unpack the luggage anyway. Decades of conditioning. This is what responsible people do. You don't make dramatic choices. You adjust, you push through. But I want to tell you what that month was like. It became clear very quickly that being able to see the light in the morning, to have sunlight on my face when I had my first cup of coffee, that wasn't optional for me. It wasn't a nice to have. It regulated everything. My mood, my energy, my sense of possibility for the day, my spirit. And in that dark little room with the frosted glass and door that I couldn't open, I could feel the absence of it every single morning, like something essential was missing before the day even started. I was miserable in a quiet, persistent, can't name it way. Now, I want to be careful here because I know how this sounds. It sounds like I'm about to tell you I had a big dramatic revelation and made a bold, courageous decision. Well, I didn't. What actually happened was much quieter than that, and I think that's the part worth talking about this morning. A few months before all of this, back when I was still in India, I had gone on a cruise, my first princess cruise, and I'd been researching casino comp programs, just curious, just exploring an idea. And I wound up earning an offer at the end of that sailing, a see you soon offer from Princess. And I thought, okay, that's interesting. Let's see where this goes. So I booked another one. Offers kept coming in, dates that were far out enough that they felt theoretical, like vacation planning, not life planning. And I started stacking them. A week here, a week there, then back to back. Then the dates started getting closer and closer. And somewhere in the middle of all of that, while I was sitting in that Airbnb with no windows, staring at a calendar full of back-to-back meetings, I had a thought. Not a plan, not a vision, just a thought. What if I just did this for a year? What if this was just what was next? Not forever, not a grand life commitment, not a reinvention I had fully mapped out. Just what's next. I could use the gym. I could walk into ports. I could be outside every single day. I could have a window. I could have sunlight on my face every morning. And maybe I could be a little healthier than I was, and a little happier, and see some of the world, and then figure out what came after that. When I got there, that was the decision. Not, I'm going to live on cruise ships forever. Not, I've designed my entire future. Just, this is what's next, and I'll decide what's next from there. You don't need to figure out your entire life. You just need to decide what's next. That's it. That's the whole thing. I know it sounds simple. I know when you're standing at the edge of something enormous, just decide what's next can sound almost dismissive, like I'm minimizing what's hard about the thing you're facing. I'm not. I know how heavy it is. I know what it feels like to have a decision sitting on your chest for months. But here's what I've noticed from my own experience and from meeting a lot of people on ships who have made real changes in their lives. Almost nobody had it all figured out when they started. They just decided what was next, and then what was next from there, and then what was next from there. That's not a plan, that's a practice, and there's a difference. I want to show you something about this harbor we sailed into this morning. Do you know what Santorini actually is? This caldera, this harbor we're floating in right now, it's the crater of an ancient volcano, one of the largest eruptions in human history. These walls rising on either side of us, this black rock and rust, and that's what remained after something catastrophic broke apart. This place that stopped me this morning, this extraordinary, almost unreasonable beauty, is a scar. It's what was left after everything fell apart. And over centuries, the sea came in and the light came. And people built their villages on the ridge. And somehow, out of all of that, this is what it became. Sometimes the most breathtaking views come from the places that broke open. I think about that Airbnb a lot, actually. That dark little room, the frosted glass, the door I kept closed. I felt like I was suffocating. And I think about the fact that the whole time I was sitting in there was a ship somewhere out there with a balcony and sunlight and open water. I just hadn't decided to get on it yet. When you're approaching Santorini from the sea, when you're still far out and the island is just a dark shape on the horizon, you can't see the caldera. You can't see the villages or the blue domes or any of it. You just move toward it. And then, slowly, as the ship gets closer, the walls begin to rise. The harbor opens up around you. The light catches the cliffs, and you see it. All of it. This extraordinary thing you couldn't have imagined from out there in the open water. You had to move toward it first. The view doesn't reveal itself until you're already in motion. Your version of this view is going to look completely different from mine. It's supposed to. Maybe it's a different job. Maybe it's a move. Maybe it's a conversation you keep putting off. Maybe it's a trip that keeps living in the someday folder. Maybe it's just this Sunday morning, letting yourself feel like the day ahead of you is actually yours. That's not a small thing. That sense of ownership over your own time, your own morning, your own day, your own life. That's what I want you to carry out of this. Before you do another single thing today, you don't need next year figured out. You don't need next month. You just need to know what's next. When you change your view, everything changes. I changed my view literally. I found a window. I found sunlight. I found this balcony. And everything changed. Not because I had a plan. Not because I figured it all out. Because I decided what was next. The ship is moving again. We came in not knowing exactly what we'd find. And then the walls rose up around us, and the light. And it was more than anything I could have described from out there in the open water. Take good care of yourself this week. I'll see you next Sunday, from wherever the sea takes us.